All right, so welcome to your speaking test. First of all, can you tell me your name?
My name is Vũ Đức Long. You can call me Long for short.
Okay, for sure. So this will be your mock test, which will be divided into 3 different parts, and I'll try my best to mimic the real IELTS exam as much that I could. Okay, so in the first part, I'm going to ask several questions about yourself. Let's start with about color. What is your favorite color?
Well, I don't think I have a specific favorite color. I practice art, so I have trained myself to fall in love with like a whole spectrum of colors, but I'm actually quite bad at coloring. So I think that normally for my color picks, when I do art, I just go for very simple color combinations, like complementary, for example.
Yeah. Okay. So do you usually wear clothes in your favorite color?
For clothing, that's a different story because my skin tone is kind of dark, so I have to specifically go for colors that kind of flatter it. So for me, it would be very muted colors. I don't usually go for vibrant ones because it also doesn't suit my vibe, right? So I don't want to like carry myself in a way that's a bit, not who I am.
Yeah. So are there any colors that have a special meaning in your country?
I mean, the obvious answer would be red. You would see that ubiquitously in Tet holiday and in very, jubilant occasions of Vietnam, like wedding ceremonies or other celebrations. I think red kind of, in Vietnamese culture means something like not just jubilation, but also joy and prosperity. So that's why it's like a very common pick for those occasions. Yeah.
Okay, so do you think different types of people like different colors?
That's a pretty interesting one. I've never really thought about that. I think people like naturally gravitate towards different colors based on like historically how they have like get exposed to them, you know? For example, if someone, as a child and as a child, they learned art and they tended to use very vibrant colors, maybe they would grow up and picking those colors more. But if someone has gone through like a very, I would say, difficult period in their lives, then maybe they would have the tendency to pick more muted or like, just monotone colors, just to reflect their minds a bit better.
Okay, so how about in terms of personality?
I think joyful people, bubbly personalities, they go for vibrant colors a lot. But having said that, there's still some exception where people get experimental and they want to try out with color schemes that are not really showy, not really flashy. I do respect their picks, but I think that it's best to go for the colors that describe your personality the clearest to people. Yeah.
Okay, for sure. So let's move on to the second part of the test. In the second part, I'm going to give you a topic. You have 2 minutes to talk about it and 1 minute for preparation in advance. And here we go. Describe a photograph of yourself that you like. Okay, now let's start.
Okay, so I would like to preface firstly that I don't usually take photographs of myself, and I don't often let people take photographs of me, mainly because I'm quite insecure about my look. But when it comes to like this photograph specifically, I kind of like that, so I think I'm gonna tell you about it now. It's actually the photograph that I'm using as my Facebook avatar. It depicts me and my sister looking at a glass ceiling, and in the photograph is basically the reflection of us from the glass. I took this photo on our trip to Singapore and Malaysia. It was on a tour, and it was also our first time traveling abroad. Right, so this photograph is very special to me because it's kind of connected to a lot of memories. Not only is that the first time that I traveled abroad, but it's also the time when I think I've learned the most about myself, right? So traveling abroad, kind of brings with you like a lot of anxiety because you are going to a totally different land. You just don't know the culture and you're not sure if the people that would understand your language. Although I've spoken English for a long time and, I know people that also speak English, but, during that trip, I kind of learned that, when you are talking to native speakers of the language, you don't usually have to like show yourself as much, showcase yourself, or like try to present yourself as someone who's good in English, but you more likely are going to focus on communication, right? And so whenever I look at that photo, I kind of remind myself of that lesson that, whenever I try to impress my students, for example, for the record, I'm teaching English, so I tend to do that at times. I look at that photo and I, kind of relearn that lesson.
Okay, that's it. Okay, thank you very much. So, how do your students react to the photos when you show them?
They usually mistake my sister for my girlfriend, which I always have to clarify. I mean, she looks so much younger than me. I just kind of, it's hard for me to comprehend why they would make such a mistake.
Okay. All right. So that is the end of the second part of the test. Now, let's move on to the third part when I'll ask you some related questions to the topic we just discussed a little bit. And since we just talked about, photograph yourself, so let's talk a bit about photographs. So do you think it is easy to take good photographs?
I mean, as an artist, I kind of tempted to say that it is because, there's kind of this tension between artists who paint pictures and photographers who just take photos. That is like, we are the people who are creating true art, not them. But, after trying out photography for like, for a decent amount of time, I've gotten my fair share of experience in that. I did realize that, photography also comes with all the sophistication that it comes with of painting. You still have to prepare for the lighting. You still have to make sure the composition is right. And not to mention that you also have to like pay very acute attention to the technical details, like choosing the right lens for the shoot that you want to take, right? And when you take photographs, you just don't have that leeway with the scene. As an artist, you can set up the scene however you want, like basically pull it out an image from your head. But for photography, you have to wait for the right moment, and that is actually what makes street photography so fascinating to me, because you always have to be there, be present at the moment, and you have to make sure that your camera is ready when there's an interesting snap.
So what are the pros and cons of digital photography?
All right. So I think that nowadays the line between digital photography and the more traditional method to produce photos have been kind of blurred because nowadays we have a lot of softwares that allow us kind of facilitate the process for us to create any kind of look that we wish for our photos. You can like set up a more traditional lighting setting in Adobe Lightroom, and you can, just retouch a photo however you like, as long as you are aware of the the potential artificial quality that might come with over editing a photo, then I think you should be fine. So that's the pros of digital photography. That is that you have a lot of avenue for editing your photos nowadays. But when it comes to the cons, I think that to some people, especially those who kind of identify themselves as like true artists, it kind of takes away, taking a photo digitally and edit them on a software kind of takes away the fun of the process, right? And it's not like they can't do the more traditional method, stick to conventionality anymore, but it's more like they are forced into digital photography nowadays, or else they won't get any customer. They won't produce photos quickly enough.
So it's all about efficiency, right?
Yeah, it's more like that nowadays.
I see. So should people share, photographs of themselves online?
I think that they have every right to do that, really. I don't think there's a law that ban people from sharing photographs of themselves online. Well, maybe save for the cases when they infringe or violate some, some rules, terms and conditions of the platform they're going to be posting photos on. I think that it's something that should be encouraged really, because it not only promotes bodily positivity, it also like a very effective way to show yourself to the world, right? There are still trolls online, which you should be aware of, right? But generally, I think, you know, people are pretty nice on the internet.
I see. Okay, so what can an image be worth 1,000 words?
What can an image be worth 1,000 words? Well, this is
when,
right? Okay, so
worth 1,000 words.
This is actually really tricky. I'm not so much into literature, you know, so let me approach this in a slightly more scientific way. So neuroscience, from the neuroscience perspective, I would say that a picture contains a lot of different information, right? So when you look at a picture, you're seeing not only the object, but also the kind of environment it is in, the condition, weather condition, lighting conditions, all that surrounding the object, and you see the condition of the object itself. So for example, if you were taking photo of a rusted cup, then you see that right there on the photo, right? And all that coming right into your brain in one shot with just the image, right? It's something that if you take the linguistic equivalent of it, it would be a few long paragraphs, right? I mean, you have seen like a lot of examples of that when in a novel, a writer needs to write a very long paragraph just to describe a scene, but you know, on the movie adaptation of that, it's only like a 3-minute footage, a 3-second footage, right? So yeah, I think in that case, you know, sometimes scientifically saying, the image kind of communicates information more efficiently. It can manage to do that in a very short span of time. All right.
I see. So one last question. So is a photograph a reliable form of identification?
If you asked me these questions like 3 years ago, I would have answered yes, but nowadays not so much, right? So we are being like threatened with this introduction of this new technology that is totally harmless called deepfake, right? And we have seen a lot of cases over the past few years of people using that technology, right, to forge the appearance of authorities and making fake calls to the citizens, right, to try to scam for money, right? And they've actually pulled that through a lot of times. So yeah, it's a lot riskier nowadays to use it as a form of identification. I would dare say that tech giants would consider like completely removing face identification from their products in the future, in fear of, you know, bad people using the deepfake technology to harm their customers. Yeah.
Okay, very nice answer. So I think that is all I need to hear. Thank you very much for your outstanding performance. Thực sự thì đối với bản thân tôi thì tôi nghĩ là nếu mà tôi chấm kể cả tùy tôi có chấm gắt hay không ấy, thì thực sự là tôi sẵn sàng cho bạn được 8,5 đến 9 sản phẩm này thát. Bởi vì là không, thực sự nhá, là cái kiểu nếu mà bây giờ để tôi kiểu gọi là mò kim đáy bể thì chắc cũng có thể tìm ra được 1-2 chỗ thôi, kiểu gọi là rất ít những cái khoản mà bạn kiểu gần như là, thứ nhất là về fluency and coherence, thì tất nhiên là ai trong chúng ta, đấy là người bản địa, cũng sẽ cần phải có thời gian để chúng ta, nếu mà chúng ta encounter một cái câu hỏi nó khó thì chúng ta đều phải có thời gian để chúng ta suy nghĩ. Đúng, kiểu bây giờ một cái câu hỏi đột một phát, kiểu một cái bức ảnh nó có giá trị với ngàn nghìn lời, đúng không? Kiểu cái câu hỏi đấy các bạn học sinh nghe lần đầu tiên, các bạn có khi các bạn còn không hiểu, huống chi đến cái việc là có thể kiểu nghĩ ra được một cái ý tưởng nào đấy mà kiểu gọi là instantaneously luôn thì rất là khó. Hay là kiểu nghĩ được ra những cái ví dụ mà kiểu kể cả các bạn có nghĩ được cái ví dụ đấy để các bạn có thể truyền tải được cái ý tưởng đấy hay không thì nó lại là một vấn đề khác. Thế nên là kiểu, thực sự là về cái việc mà kiểu nhận một cái câu hỏi khó và kiểu có bị ngập ngừng đi chăng nữa thì cũng chả sao cả, và người bản địa thế thôi. Thế nên là chắc chắn phần này thì tôi cảm thấy là bạn gần như đủ tiêu chí để có thể là được 9 thôi. Kiểu fluency gần như là kiểu trong mọi hoàn cảnh, dù cái câu hỏi nó có khó hay là kiểu follow up question hay nó có hay không thì bạn đều có thể kiểu trả lời cái câu hỏi một cách nó có chiều sâu, như là một người kiểu yêu thích nghệ thuật, art enthusiast. Về lexical resource thì of course Bạn là một người yêu thích nghệ thuật, đúng không? Thì
Dạ.
chắc chắn một điều là với một người mà yêu thích nghệ thuật, hay là mỗi khi mà chúng ta được hỏi về một cái câu hỏi nào đó mà có liên quan đến cái our favorite topic, thì chắc chắn là chúng ta sẽ nói một cách nó gần như là gọi là yapping về nó luôn, đúng không? Kiểu nói không ngừng luôn, bởi vì là nó đúng như kiểu là vào cái điểm mạnh của chúng ta rồi, strength thì chúng ta chỉ có show thôi ấy. Đó thì tôi nghĩ là không biết là các chủ đề khác như nào, but I don't care, but in this topic, you know, to definitely get a 9 from me.
Alright, thank you.